Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague who's worked out that his hair goes out, not up. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
I've heard of handlebar moustache, but handlebar sideburns is no. I'm sorry, no. This is why I've never gone longer than 5 weeks without getting my hair cut. I always feared what the result would be, and my fears have been justified.
I do not believe we have known each other since 2001, and I do not believe I have ever seen your hair so long.
I don't think you will have done. The only time I can think of that was possibly this long was my first year at high school when it was down around my face.
You have a bowl head.
I had a bowl head.
Do you have a fanny part, as it was known in the trade? Part.
The problem is, though, there is a picture of me of around that time. There's a picture of me with my mum, and we have the same hairstyle.
Nice.
I suspect it was the day we got that photo back, because this was back in the days when you had to, take your film to a shop and have it developed and wait a week for it. I think the day I got that film back was the day I then demanded to be taken to the barbers
immediately
to have my hair shaved, and it was never ever again to grow too long until now. Whereas it doesn't come down anymore; it goes up and out.
Yeah, definitely. Neil, this week, standard fare with Weird World and some NFL news, but then a fantastic interview with the brilliant Erica Tamposi, a.k.a. Ricky Hollywood from the Around the NFL podcast, the producer. We've already interviewed her. It's fantastic. She's really cool. And we don't care what Reddit says about it, but we'll come on to that a bit later. Starting us off, though, Neil, let's get straight onto it with a bit of Weird World. First story, Neil. Florida is even Florida in a lockdown.
Oh, God.
Florida's lawyers get dressed for Zoom hearings. A Florida judge has one request for attorneys showing up for court hearings via Zoom. Get out of bed and put some clothes on. Circuit Judge Dennis Bailey made a plea in a letter published by the Western Bar Association, news outlets reported. It is remarkable how many attorneys appear inappropriately on camera, Bailey said in one letter. One male lawyer appeared shirtless, and one female attorney appeared in bed, still under the covers. Bailey isn't making exceptions for lawyers lounging in Florida sunshine either. Put on a beach cover-up. Won't cover up the poolside in a bathing suit, he wrote. Neil, do you think when you go into court, even if it is via Zoom, you should at least put a shirt and tie on?
Well, yes. I mean, there's certain places that call for a certain decorum. By the way, do you say the judge's surname was Bailey?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Do you think they call him Old Bailey?
Do you think American people in Florida understand what that means?
No. I mean, certain decorum. I mean, this comes back to, do you remember that interview on the news of the man who's being interviewed in his home office and his daughter comes in?
Yes.
Now, if you watch the way that man behaves in trying to keep his daughter back, he never gets out of his chair, which leads me to conclude that while he had a jacket, shirt and tie on, he was probably wearing shorts.
Yeah.
Well, best case scenario, shorts, worst case, he was in his bills. So,
I think that's not the worst case, but I understand where you've gone.
Yeah, but yeah, you've studied, presumably, to become an attorney. You've gone through, you've put in the hours, to law school. You've pulled all-nighters. You've earned your crust. Show a bit of dignity to it. Come on. I did work with someone who used to wear a suit for phone interviews when he wanted to get a job. Because he said it put him in the mindset of, I'm at an interview. Now, I'm not in any position to judge these lawyers or attorneys or, whatever they are, because I'm not one. But I would think that if I was just in my bills, I don't think I'd be giving a fully competent performance.
There's a joke in there somewhere. Absolutely, Neil. I think, at least put like a polo shirt on. Maybe a sports jacket. You know, as you said, I'm comfortable that you may be short. It's Florida, for goodness sake. It's probably 100 degrees.
Yeah.
But
Just don't stand up.
let's be a bit professional about it, people. That would be nice.
Yeah, just don't stand up. If south of the equator, if it's party up, if it's business up here, party down there.
Exactly.
His Honour doesn't need to see it.
No, absolutely, Neil. Next story, Neil. A classic line of "Do not touch the red button." Headline: Pensioner thrown from fighter jet after accidentally pulling ejector lever mid-flight. As far as retirement gifts go, a ride in a £70 million fighter jet is up there with one of the most memorable, especially if you pull the ejector seat partway through the flight. That is exactly what happened to 64-year-old Frenchman who was sent up in a Raphael B at an airbase in Saint-Désine, northwest France. Despite the fact he'd never expressed a desire to take part in a flight like this. If only we knew someone who'd been bought a gift such as this, Neil. As the plane started a sudden and rapid ascent, the gentleman gripped on for dear life to the ejector seat lever. At 2,500 feet, he shot out to the top of the plane at high speed, losing his helmet in the process before landing with minor injuries in a field near the German border. Maybe he thought he was doing the invasion. Anyway, a report by the Bureau of Inquiries and Analysis in Paris also found that it was only by good fortune that the pilot had not been ejected as a result.
If his helmet has come off for an ejection after pulling on the ejection lever, he did not have his helmet on properly. That is old person. I won't put my seatbelt on. I'll just hold it over me, tastic.
Or we're just about to land. I'll undo the button.
Yeah. No. Keep it on. The seatbelt signs are on for a reason. I mean, we've all been bought duff presents. But a 70-year-old man, he was 70, am I just making that up?
64.
64. Francois, we've bought you, we know it's your birthday, big birthday, so we've got you a flight in a fighter jet. Why have you done that, you bastards? I don't even like to fly. Oh, come on, it was on Le Groupon.
Le Groupon.
Yeah, don't be like that. You're a very hard person to buy. Little word of warning though, Pierre, when you're up there, don't press anything.
But, the thing is, I don't know the instructions in a French thing, and maybe it was in English and he didn't understand, but the red lever that probably said lay ejector button, do not grab. You'd think he would have noticed that was happening.
Billy Ocean summed it up best when he said, red light spells danger. And that, those are words that, as true today as they were back then. If something is red, it's a good chance you probably shouldn't be touching it in an aircraft that you're not familiar with, that you didn't want to be in. It's unlikely to be a special present button for you.
Fantastic. If you've got any weird word stories that you want me and Neil to discuss, please send them to us at waxing_lyrical. We enjoy them during the off season. They keep us amused, especially during this period. Just imagine my dad in a fighter jet going pulling an ejector wire. Fantastic. Neil, let's get on now and talk a little bit of NFL news. 3 stories really since our last meeting. First one, CMC, Christian McCaffrey has been paid big time, especially for a running back. Or, Neil, has he been paid receiver money?
He's been paid receiver money, but he's been paid as a running back. Now, the arguments I have seen, yes, Christian McCaffrey last year was one of only 3 players in NFL history to have 1,000 yards as a rusher and receiver in the same season. Now, the argument I have seen is, I will just say this now, good for Christian McCaffrey on getting paid. Congratulations. You've earned life-changing money. You've earned legacy money for your family for the rest of your life and probably your grandchildren's life, so congratulations there. Now, the argument I've seen to why this contract for Christian McCaffrey will be different to contracts given to Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott is, he's so much more dangerous. You have to pay this type of running back because he's a receiver as well as a running back. Yeah, the Panthers went 5-11 and went 7-9 the year before with this Weapon X Swiss Army knife receiving running back. So I struggle to see, how important he is. Now, they had to pay someone because obviously, no Luke Kuechly, no Greg Olsen, no Cam Newton. They couldn't afford a situation where Christian McCaffrey would come to the end of his contract, and granted, he would have had his fifth-year option, but they couldn't get to a situation of, okay, so this is what we want to pay you. I'm not signing that. I think a mutiny, amongst the Panther fans, and I think it would have been a very bad start, to what they hope will be a long era with Matt Rule. We need to stop paying running backs. And I know he's a good pass catcher. Yes, of course he is. He caught 100 passes. They were dump offs. He wasn't running, 15-yard drag routes or corners or all the complex worlds of what this was. He was catching dump offs from bad quarterbacks or quarterbacks who were not playing the peak of their powers. Was he good at it? Yes, he was. Is he a good running back? Yes, he is. We've seen enough to know that this contract is not going to be good value all the way through it. It's not going to be a case of after 3 years, people are not going to be saying, I tell you what, they've got a bargain with this one. It doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't happen. So if it's a case of now, if Matt Rule is going to come out and say, okay, we've paid him this money, we need to be smarter with how we use him, that's fine. Because if he's playing 99% of the snaps next year, I guarantee in 2021, he'll be averaging 3 yards a carry if he's lucky.
I do look and think, you say things like we've learned or we know. We obviously don't know, because this always happens. And what usually happens is Team X will make a valid reason in their mind why this running back is different from all the other running backs. So, see Todd Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, soon to be Saquon Barkley for details, right? There's always a reason why you have to pay this running back. And this time it's, he's technically a receiver. Okay? Don't think he is, but I understand what you mean. Like, that's cool if we're talking the NFL in PPR leagues, but I don't think we are, because we're talking about the NFL in NFL leagues. And as you said, he's not catching the ball 15 yards down the field. So, not sure I really want a wide receiver who can do that, what he does at that value. Okay, but whatever. Will teams ever learn this? No, because teams like shiny things, right? And a running back has always been a shiny thing. And you can sell shirts with Christian McCaffrey on the back. And does that value equal what he's going to earn? No, it doesn't. In year 3, will he be cut? Or will he be looking to restructure his deal? Highly probable. Will he get another contract after this one to anywhere remotely near the value of this one? 99.9% no. But as you quite rightly point out, what Carolina have done in the last 12 months suggested that they kind of had to keep someone, because otherwise, you're like, who are we hitching our wagon to in promotional videos? And if we haven't got CMC, I don't know who it is. So, okay, we'll pay him. And yeah, we'll probably have to deal with the consequences in year 4. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, like most other teams do.
I mean, it is unfair to running backs that their peak earning years are spent doing it for free in college and whatnot, and on their rookie deals. Play a different position then.
Let's add it to the list of things that are unfair in the world. I agree with you, and unfortunately, there's not really much I can do about it. Tell you what, maybe running backs should sign their own collective bargaining agreement, and they'll get their own salary cap and restructuring related to it.
I did see someone who say, well, maybe you make it that running backs can come out after only 2 years of college. And how quickly do you think a wide receiver is going to sue the NFL and say, I played 50% of my snaps as a running back, I should be allowed. And then as soon as he gets out into the NFL, he never plays a snap at running back.
It's not going to work. Neil, let's move on to the next story. you've got that guy in your fantasy league who just has to trade, like just has to constantly trade, just can't help himself. Doesn't, especially it's probably a dynasty league, doesn't care about the next year's draft. Our friend James Dixon, who I drafted with, I traded with this year. I gave him Tyreek Hill. I got a first round draft pick. Bravo. As James said, he did a load of trades and now he hasn't got any picks this year and he came second. So well done to him. The NFL version of that right now is Bill O'Brien, who seems enamored with wide receivers who aren't as talented as the one he used to have as he trades for Brandon Cooks.
I think Mark Schofield made this point on, it might have been on Twitter, if not, it was on a podcast he was on. There was an episode of Family Guy where Peter Griffin could win a boat, or he could take what was in the box. And his line was, a boat is a boat, but inside the box could be anything. It could even be a boat. They had an elite wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. Megalomaniac Bill O'Brien did not like DeAndre Hopkins, so got rid of him. And now, it's if life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Well, life continues to give Bill O'Brien turmeric, and he's still trying to make lemonade out of it. Now, you've lost an elite player at his position, and what have you got? It's that Thanos meme. Did you get rid of DeAndre Hopkins? Yes. What did it cost? Everything. Because what have you got? You got Brandon Cooks, who plays the exact same role as Will Fuller, who's in a contract year, and Kenny Stills, who's in a contract year. Oh, okay. We've got a slot receiver. Yeah, Randall Cobb hasn't been good since 2014. Okay, well, it's a deep wide receiver class this year. Yeah, you have 3 picks in the top 170. I could go on and on about Bill O'Brien, about how the fact, that he's inept. However, what I shall do instead, as a public service, I shall instruct anyone who's listening to this to listen to subscribe, download the latest episode of the Roto World radio podcast. Every year, Matt Kelly and Evan Silver have taken a franchise to task, as it were. The first year was the Cleveland Browns. Last year was the New York Giants, and it was so good and so far-reaching that Mike Francesa actually had to respond to allegations that he was basically running the Giants on air. This year, they were planning on doing Washington, but Bill O'Brien made them change their mind. So it's about 45 minutes, and it lists. It goes through how Bill O'Brien got to where he is as one of the most powerful people in the NFL, based on very, very limited qualifications for the role.
Fantastic, Neil. I don't think there's anything more to add apart from to download the podcast with Kelly and Silver. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Final thing, Neil, before we get to Erica, and that is a victory in the Kit Watch uniform stakes by the Cleveland Browns. They may be constantly and consistently losing on the field, but finally they make an off the field decision that everyone can get behind, and that's their new uniforms.
They're brown, and they've absolutely nailed the socks. So hats off to you. I mean, it's a bit hard to say. Some teams want to take their uniforms back to their glory days. Well, the Cleveland Browns' glory days were before colour television, so they could have been wearing anything, and plus they played on muddy fields, so by the end of the game it literally could have been anything. It's a good choice. The colour rush one is still. I'll never take the colour rush. I never will.
It's not a thing, right? You're not enjoying it, so it's not something to hold against the team, because you don't like any of them.
No, but this uniform, the home shirt, the away one, yes, well done. You've gone back to the past with a look that works. Tampa Bay have done the same thing. Atlanta, as you said, don't know what you're doing. So, yes, very good. Hats off, Browns. This is one thing that, this is one thing not to moan about going into the season.
Yeah, I think we sometimes underestimate how easy it is to balls this up in any sport. The amount of uniforms that teams get wrong on a consistent basis is unbelievable. You know, Neil holds his hand up. His team is supposed to wear blue and white stripes, in which the blue and the white stripes are the same size.
Mm-hmm.
They have somehow, over the past decade, failed at this multiple times.
Oh, consistently.
You know, there's multiple other teams we can point at, we won't. So when a team gets it right, I like to give them, you know, the arrogant pat on the head. Well done. Didn't you do well? Because you didn't balls it up. So bravo, Browns. Now, if you could do me a favour, maybe win some games and try and fix Baker Mayfield before you break him beyond repair. That would be cool.
Yeah, it's as I say, I don't think people are going to be as quick to be suckered in by the Browns this year as they were last year. I think there's other shiny things to look at. Hi,
Buffalo. We're looking at you, Buffalo.
Buffalo are this year's Cleveland Browns, but the Browns have put themselves in a position where if they are sensible in the draft and with some of the moves they've made in free agency, with competent management, and basically what I'm saying in the shortcut is if Jimmy Haslam is locked out of the facility, and off to, come up with his next felonious endeavour, that he can stay out the way, then maybe the Browns could do something. But we've been hurt before.
We have, Neil. We have. So, Neil, that's it for the news. Let us dive over to our fantastic interview with Erica Tamposi over in Los Angeles. She can tell us all about her work with the ATM boys, with Anthony Jeselnik, and Reddit losers. Over to Erica. Neil, and joining us now, producer of the Around the NFL podcast and the Jeselnik and Rosenthal Vanity Project, although I don't think she's the producer on that, Neil, but we'll come to that momentarily. We have Ricky Hollywood, as Dan Handers would call it, but of course it is Erica Tamposi. Erica, how are we today?
Hey, how are you guys? Thanks for having me.
We're good. Neil wrote the headline here, and it says, I said producer of Jeselnik and Rosenthal, but that's not strictly true. What is your correct title for that show?
I think it is legally, if that's even a term, producer. But yeah, I'm on it pretty often. So, I mean, every show. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both.
It's like you technically call yourself the producer of this one, mate.
That's true. That's true. That's only because I press record and then post it. But I think I do a little less than Erica does, and I think that's a good place to start, Neil. So, based on maths, we believe you're the longest tenured ATM producer, and obviously you've done production earlier, Comedy Central. So, how did you get into the production business, and why do you enjoy it so much?
That is a good question. I really never thought I'd be doing audio work. And even when I went to the NFL for my interview, I thought it was for a producer role, and it was, but it was producing podcasts. So I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, this isn't what I do. I went to a film school or studied film in university, and then moved out to LA, and I was working on TV shows like Mr. Robot and Drunk History and Justified and some of these, big shows. I did a show with J-Lo, her dance show. But the way that Hollywood works is you have a gig for a certain amount of weeks and then it ends. So you'd be on a show for about 9 months and then it ends, and then you got to find new work. And then someone that I had interned with or apprenticed with when I was in college worked at ESPN, and he knew someone at the NFL, and so I went in there for a producer role thinking it was for TV, and found out it was for podcasts. So that was sort of my first minute with audio. I don't even listen to podcasts. So I was like, what the hell is this? But it turned out to be one of the greatest decisions ever.
Did you, when you first started, because obviously you've said, oh, I'm a producer, and you've worked in TV, and they're like, no pictures here. Is the technology drastically different? Were you a bit like, whoa, you've asked me to do this and it's something that I've never done before, or did he kind of merge into certain aspects so you were okay to pick it up straight away?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of video that we do too, and luckily, I think that's why I've been so valuable there is because of sort of my skills outside of the audio space. But audio without, there definitely like I had to learn the board and super, different ways that everybody would do something differently, but it's all the same. Like I edit audio how I would edit video. There just isn't video, so it's pretty much the same.
Obviously, as listeners to the Around the NFL podcast will know, you are a Patriots fan. We don't mind that here. Although I should point out that probably one of the worst days of your Patriots fanhood, I would have been laughing at you because I'm an Eagles fan. So I apologise for that. I apologise for that. But the word I probably shouldn't reveal this to the public. But do you want Philly? Philly is the security question for my online banking. So, obviously, as a Patriots fan, and working for the NFL, was that really a goal for you, or was it just a case of you wanted to be a producer, and it just happened that you get to be a producer and work for the NFL?
Yeah, it was crazy because I always feel like I just must come off sounding so like, entitled just to be like, I never really thought about it when there's all these people that are like dying to work in the sports field. And here am I just being like, oh, well, I mean, I got the job and here I am. But I grew up in the New England area. Patriots was all I knew. That's all my friends knew. I mean, I had a couple of friends that were more into the league. So I would be like, who are we playing this week? And they'd be like, oh, we're playing, the Dolphins. I'd be like, oh, are they good or bad? Like I had no knowledge of like besides who we're playing this week and are we going to beat them or are we not? Like, do I need to be worried or do I not? So moving to the NFL was like tricky in that aspect where it's like I had so much learning to do. Like I knew nothing besides my team because that's just all I was immersed in. And even when I was out here, I mean, when I moved to LA, I was a Pats fan. I went to Patriots bars. I went to, would watch the game and text friends from back east. I wasn't watching other stuff. So, it was very much sort of, I never really anticipated that my life or career would take me here, never in a million years.
Just a quick question to see, one of the shows you've been working on, was it Drunk History?
Yes.
We have a show, or we've had a show, and it's called Horrible Histories. Is that a similar type of thing? It's basically, it's called Horrible Histories.
I don't know. Drunk History here is where they get comedians like very, very drunk and they tell a story and then they have people reenact the history part of it, but with the drunk person's dialogue. So you'll have Abraham Lincoln, stumbling over his words, saying the wrong things in the reenactments. It's really funny. I don't know if it's the same thing, but
no, it's not. But it sounds a lot better. Sorry,
it's good. You should check it out. Check it out. It's a great show.
The show, I guess, is hosted by Dan. He, obviously not from New England, so there's a lot of anti-Pat sentiment.
Yes.
It's Dan. Let's be honest. It's no one else. Although Chris did get heavily involved this year when Antonio Brown got involved, but that's a different story. Do you take exception at any point, or is it more like I am a bigger brother of a younger sister who I constantly annoyed probably for the first 20 years of her life? Do you feel that it's that kind of situation where Dan's just winding you up because he knows that it will annoy you to such a point that at one point you will react?
Yeah, I think there's definitely Dan's such a great host that he knows how to push everyone's buttons to get people to react a certain way for the show, and that's what makes him such a great showman. But I do think, I think if I wasn't there, or even if Greg's pretty hard to get riled up, but I think there would be less Patriots talk than there is now if we weren't there.
I always look and think, I listened to yesterday's show where Dan's already blowing up the fact that the show was 2 minutes on each AFC team and had already denied that he had any involvement in it being 2 minutes, and that when it failed miserably, it wasn't going to be his fault before the show had even started. And everyone's like, whoa, Dan, what are you doing? But as you said, that's what hosts need to do, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of speaking on that. When I moved out to LA and I left my New England bubble, I was so shocked that how many people hated the Patriots, because where I came from, it was everywhere, and it was like the blood of our city. And we're a very big Red Sox baseball town. We're just Boston itself is the biggest sports town in America. It's a port. Everyone that comes over ends up there, and it's just if you can't communicate, what can you do? You can go to a Red Sox game, even if you don't speak the same language, and you can go to Fenway. Like, Boston is just like the coolest place. But coming out here, I'd be wearing my Pats jersey, and my friends would be like, ew, like the Pats are the worst. And I'm like, what do you mean the worst? Like, I was so shocked at how many people hated the Pats. And to me, that was like the most mind-blowing thing I'd ever experienced.
It is only, I mean, not to educate you yourself, obviously, but it is a very recent thing, because there's a book by Jerry Thornton called From Darkness to Dynasty, and it's about the New England Patriots. It's a very, very funny book. I highly recommend it. But the start of it says, for like the first 40 years of this team's existence, they were not relevant. No one cared.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's now just a case of the. I mean, I only started watching I started watching the NFL the year Tom Brady was drafted.
Mm-hmm.
So I've only known the Patriots to be this juggernaut, whereas Paul has watched for a lot longer. So plus in his other sport, Paul supports Liverpool.
Who
So
are
he knows
that
a
team? Like,
Yes.
it's funny, Liverpool, Boston, that kind of, the whole city revolves around sport. The whole city thinks that's perfect, and then you go outside and everybody hates the city, and you're like, wow, why does everyone hate us? I don't understand. We haven't done anything wrong. Oh, it's all the gloating and all the fact we talk about the sport all the time. You don't actually like that. Oh, okay, I understand now.
Yeah, especially with basketball too. Like, the Golden State Warriors won the NBA Finals a bunch of times in a row, and I found myself being like, okay, well, let's put someone else in there. Like, let's give someone else a chance. And then I was like, oh no, I can't admit that out loud, because that means that, like, I can't let them win. So I was like, yeah, go Golden State, keep going.
Obviously, at the time, for anyone who's noticed, we're all on, lockdown at the moment. It may have escaped a few people's attention. I don't know. Some people haven't picked up a paper in a day or two or whatnot. So obviously, it's been a different type of output from yourselves and the four guys. How challenging has it been doing, a podcast, not only every day, considering usually you'll do 2 or 3 a week. You're doing one every day and having to try and come up with new ideas, not just, 4 people. Dan does his introduction, Chris says, hey Dan, and then it's, so what we talked about yesterday, we'll reiterate, you have to come up with new things every day. How tough is that from a production point of view?
Yeah, from the producing standpoint, it is definitely 5 shows a week is something new for all of us, so that's been good. It's been a challenge, but it's also nice to like sort of have a routine. Like, my Monday through Friday feels like, and then there's so much work. Like, I'm putting most of the shows on YouTube, or doing a live Twitter show on Fridays now, which has a totally different type of execution. So like, there's been a lot that I need to, we just got a sponsorship that picked up for certain days of the week. Like, it's just a lot of keeping track of that kind of stuff. But as far as figuring out what we're doing on the show, it's mostly the guys. Which is great. As a producer, I have been in situations where I'm doing most of the rundown, with JRVP, I send a bunch of headlines, and then, Anthony will pick the ones that he likes, but I'm sort of coming up with what we would talk about. I mean, they pick what they want to talk about, but from what I send. With this, we're in a group chat with the ATN guys, and we just sort of go back and forth. What do we feel like today? Should we have a guest? Should we do trade talks? Like, what are this? And a lot of the times it's like, oh my God, that's so boring. We just did that. Or a lot of the times it's me and Mark saying, that's so boring. We don't want to do that. But yeah, it just depends. And I think definitely the guys are so cool how they want to be so involved. And this is literally their baby. And, my phone is constantly, it's going off right now. I have 8 text messages in the time we've been on right now from them. So, they're just going off about something.
That's Mark wanting to start on time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
The other question on that is, they're all older than me and Neil aren't young, and that's fine. And you've had to get them all with a laptop in a house with Zoom. Or an Airbnb, depending on which person it is.
Right.
With Zoom, with a microphone, that works, and a camera, that points at their face and is able to be video recorded. How easy was that?
It was actually easier than I thought it would be. I thought it would be way more difficult, and there are some hiccups. The scariest part about working on the ATN are the fans. And if you go on Reddit or Twitter, like, they destroy me. Like, they do not like me. They think I'm terrible at my job. They always want the last producer back, depending on who it is. Even now, like, someone tweeted at me today, like, wish La Sid was you. And it's like, okay, like, good morning. Like, I'm locked in quarantine too. Like, what do you want me to do? So it was more, my biggest fear is when I post the show is just like, what online hate am I gonna get? And so for this, I was like, oh my god, the audio is gonna be so bad, or 3 people got their mics in, the other didn't. It's gonna sound different. Everyone's gonna just like be on Reddit saying how bad I like suck at my job and all this kind of stuff. So I was telling that, and they're like, people should understand. Like, we're in a quarantine. I was like, they don't understand. But yeah, it was all right. We figured it out.
I mean, I'm not on, harping back to old producers, but I have met Zach Goldman. I have actually been to a football game with him, and he bought me a burger. And so far, you haven't bought me anything. So,
I know, yeah. Just make sure you tweet at me and tell me how much you hate me, and then you'll be right in line.
The thought of going on to any Reddit page, never mind the ATM one,
fills
me with dread. It's a scary place. My wife uses it a lot, and she's like, "Oh, you should go on." I'm like, No, I've got too many other things. I'm not going on. It's a dark web that I don't need any involvement in. Thanks.
Yeah, I was reading YouTube comments when we were posting JRVP on YouTube, and Anthony, like, in person yelled at me. He's like, don't you ever, ever read YouTube comments. The people that comment on YouTube videos are literally the worst people on this face of this earth. Like, do not, because I was, like, upset. Like, people are just so mean. It's just so bad.
I think Anthony's a good person to use in that, right? Because there's nothing that he won't say. So I'm pretty sure on that point that he's not going to be taking any criticism or comments from anyone, because he won't care.
Right. Exactly. But here I am, like, nobody knows who I am, and they're commenting like, get this chick off the screen, like, she's so ugly, and I'm like, what? Like, what? I'm not even on the screen right now. Like, what is happening?
People are probably weird.
But hey.
NFL in the UK is becoming much more popular with ladies in the country. How important do you think the likes of yourself, Colleen, Jane Slater, Liz Loser, who's a friend of ours from Yahoo, are in that move? And also, question on the back of that is, how long did it take you to do the quarantine uniform reveal today?
Well, it was actually Emma VP's brilliant idea. She is definitely the brains behind that. She said, did you see this Atlanta Falcons video? Like, it's so ridiculous how they just do hip hop videos with uniforms. She's like, we should just do a quarantine one. So I texted Jane, and we texted Colleen and Lakeisha, and we just had a group text, and we're like, let's just send videos, and we edited it together. But we actually had it done last week, but we wanted to release it the day that the Browns released theirs, just so it would be sort of like trending the same time. So yeah, it's doing good. But yeah, the women of the NFL, not just NFL Network, I think are so cool. And it's so cool to see, like, when some of your guy friends, or you'd be at a bar and they'd be like, I met this girl and we were talking football. It was like so cool. Like, that used to be such an anomaly. And now it's just like, but it is cool. Like, you meet a lot of women now that are super into their teams, or learning more, or doing all this kind of stuff. And I don't think it's necessarily because, of the Colleen Wolfs of the world and all that. But I think seeing those people on TV and seeing that they can be funny, and that they're not only just, beauty, but the brains, and they're smart, and they really know their stuff. I think it's really cool to have women see other women so involved.
We do have, and in this country we have, obviously our version of football, like cricket and things like that. And there's more women get involved on the on camera, in the commentary box, as it were, in the studio. Some of them are better than others. Some of them you can just tell, and I'm not naming any names at all, because you probably won't know them unless you watch a lot of cricket, which I'm assuming you don't.
No, I don't.
Some of them, it's just like, no, you're just here because you look pretty. Where some of them, when they're actually talking, it's like, yeah, you know something about this game, probably more than I do, so I'll listen to you. So obviously, that, like, you say yourself, you had to learn a lot about the game. It wasn't just the Patriots. Colleen, as when we spoke to her, obviously, very passionate Eagles fan, people like that, and I think it's the fact that, as you say, it's not just that, let's put someone up here just for the eye candy. It is actually, especially on like podcasts,
right.
We can't see them, but what we're listening to, it actually makes sense.
Right, their football mind. Yeah, exactly. It's so cool. It's so cool to see like strong, women getting out there and really holding their own, because there was a time where you'd have that like one female host who was super good looking and that's all she was there for. And I felt like that was even worse for, the women in sports movement. I think it's so cool to see these badass girls getting up there and like they could totally go toe to toe with guys over these sports. Yeah, we can't play it, in the pros, but that doesn't mean that we don't know what we're talking about either. So I think it's so cool.
I mean, we can't play it either.
Yeah.
Not that we know what we're talking about, though. That's the problem, Mains, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right, exactly.
We've had in the past, on several occasions, we spoke to Dan, Mark, Chris, and Greg. Dan, when we rang him, actually pretended to be someone else for a couple of minutes to, I'll just get him, and then disappeared. And they came out and went, yeah, it was me. It was like, oh. Because
we've never spoken to him before either.
Yeah, never spoken to him. It's just like, is he coming back? Was that actually him? So obviously we've spoke to them. We know that what they come across on the show is pretty similar to how they come across in real life, as it were. So, based on that question, is Anthony Jeselnik really like his podcast persona in real life? Because I'd like to think he is.
There's a little bit of the illusion there that I have to be careful about, revealing. I think he is very, how do I phrase this so he doesn't kill me? He's super sweet. He's super sweet. He's caring for the people that he loves and that he wants to take care of. I think that if you're, a troll online or someone that doesn't respect his comedy or people around him and stuff like that, I think that he takes nothing from nobody, no matter what. He's super, super confident. That sort of arrogant confidence is definitely him. He is sweet, he is loving, he is thoughtful, and his views aren't exactly his comedy. So I'll leave that at that.
leave it open like that.
We can do. I mean, we'd like more listeners, but I can do without Anthony Jeselnik coming after me.
Yeah. You don't want to get into a fight with him.
That's bringing a spoon to a gunfight. Quite frankly, exactly on our part, I'm just not prepared to do it.
Exactly. Well, Erica, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks a lot for your time. We will let you get back to staring outside and hoping that one day you'll be back outside in sunny Los Angeles.
I know. I do have a nice little back patio that I've been editing on to try to get a little sun during the afternoon, but sorry to rub it in.
We're due to get some sun next year.
Yeah, maybe.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Cheers,
awesome.
Erica.
Well, thanks so much for having me, you guys.
Well, that was a brilliant Erica Tamposi there. Hopefully staying away from Reddit and the rest of the internet trolls to continue the rest of her day in Los Angeles.
Yeah, she stays away from Reddit and keeps Jeselnik away from us. I think that'll be a day's work well done.
It will be, Neil. And I just, you don't have. The thing I never understand about this type of stuff, like, I say this all the time on numerous different things. If you don't like something, like, don't listen to it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand the video, but anyway, that's another story.
I mean, I don't eat salad, but I don't.
You don't attack salad randomly at a salad bar, do you?
No, I'm not walking up to people as they're trying to put, their salad and their pasta in the box, shouting, lettuce bastards at them and things like that. It's not
exactly. It's not cricket, so to speak. Neil, that's been the show. Before we come back next week, where can people catch you?
Catch me on the Twitter at endupton13. This week I've had an article about It's a NFL betting article regarding the position of the Mr. Irrelevant in this year's draft. So that's the player who's taken last, who gets the ceremony, the Lozman Trophy and the trip to Disneyland. I've got a few, I got those rookie profiles that I did a few weeks ago for Player Profiler on Stephen Sullivan and Van Jefferson. I've had a piece or wrote of his on people whose ADPs are dropping in the last few weeks. And, I'm going to be working on some pieces for Ravenswire regarding best pass rushers and best offensive linemen in each round of the draft. So busy.
I have been on the daily Touchdown NFL podcast, or live feed from the Touchdown Twitter feed. I was on the first day when we talked quarterbacks, and then I was on Sunday talking safeties. Being shown up by, not shown up, but by being knowledgeable by a lovely lady Bex, who works for Touchdown as well. Did a fantastic job on that with Ben Rolfe. Ben does it every day. I would recommend it. It's really good. The guys are tremendously knowledgeable on major areas of coming up to the draft, and it's useful. So you can also pick it up on the podcast feed. But if you want to listen to it, it's live every night at 8:30 on Twitter. So there we go. As always, Neil is at Indulton13. I am at Mainsy7. Combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. That is us until next week. So until then, these top guys are out.